Right now, I'm challenging myself to see if I can make 128 Regulation H teams that are each different from one another over the course of 128 days. Why 128, you might ask? At the end of the 128 days, we're going to do something special where we battle every team against each other in a single elimination bracket to see which team emerges on top. There will be some competitively strong teams, there will be some gimmick teams, and there will be some probably a good number of goofs and gaffs in there, so if you want to follow through to the end, subscribe so that you can keep up with each day. But without further ado, let's move on to day 11. Alright everybody, welcome back to another video, and in today's video, we're going to be going over a team that I kind of built like 2 or 3 years ago during the Sword and Shield I believe it was called the Spikemuth Cup. Spikemuth Cup is what it was called, because back then it was a format created on Pokémon Showdown for not having any Dynamaxes and not having any restricted legendaries, and it was a good bit of fun. But as you'll notice, we have a Basket Legion on this team, and that's because I decided to replace the Barraskewda that I used to have on this team, because Barraskewda used to be on this team because you needed to outspeed Regieleki. And not only are we in Reg A++, where there is no Regieleki fell off. But this is a grass, fire, water core, and we have Riolu. So let's get into the mons that we've got. First off, we have Rillaboom, the big grass mans. We have the Grassy Glide, of course, but we have the drum beating on Rillaboom instead of the Woodhammer, and this is because we want to have a much tankier Rillaboom, where we don't want to be knocking ourselves out with the Woodhammer too often because of things that we'll talk about later. But the drum beating is handy for not knocking yourself out, but it's also handy for lowering the speed of your opponents, which helps out Basket Legion. And then we also have the knockoff and the Drain Punch as type coverage, and then we have the Terra Grass, but also the Miracle Seed to make it so that we're doing as much grass type damage as possible inside of our Grassy Surge, hopefully. And then our second grass type that we have here is the Serena, which has the Queenly Majesty ability, which works exactly like Armor Tail. Well, I guess actually Armor Tail technically works exactly like Queenly Majesty, because Queenly Majesty came out first. But Queenly Majesty will negate all of the priority coming from the opponent, and then we have the Grassy Glide, which will give us priority whenever we're on Rillaboom's grassy terrain. And we also have the Drop Kick for lowering the opponent's attack, as well as we have the Triple Axle for the type coverage, and the Low Sweep for the type coverage, but also so that we can lower the opponent's speed. Next up we have Incineroar, and this Incineroar is a little different because it does have the Fake Out like they all do, and we do have the Knockoff, and we do have the Flare Blitz. However, we have the Drain Punch in our last move slot, and this is because we want our Incineroar to be a very bulky Incineroar that actually stays on the field for a very long time. And with a lot of our HP invested into bulk, and most of it invested into attack, and some of it into speed just so we can outspeed some Incineroars. I'm not actually sure what this speed stat should be at to guarantee outspeeding most Incineroars, but we want to be at least outspeeding the ones that have no speed investment. So yeah, with our Assault Vest and our Intimidate ability in tandem, it makes Incineroar very tanky, and as long as we can keep Incineroar on the field drain punching things, it'll stay around for a while. Next up we have Politoed, who I elected to put on this team over Pelipper, mainly because Pelipper is going to get played on a lot of different teams, and my original team did use Politoed because Politoed used to be better than Pelipper. However, Pelipper is more favorable right now because it can Hurricane, and Politoed can no longer use the move Scald in its move pool. But moving on to Politoed, we have the Drizzle ability, which is the main reason that you would run Politoed, as well as we have the Weather Ball for dealing some good weather type damage for dealing some good water type damage. And then we also have the Endeavor for whenever something is going to bring us down to our Focus Sash, or maybe we're already at Focus Sash and we're somehow faster than something with Politoed, we can go for the Endeavor to bring them down to 1 health. We also have the Haze to get rid of Boost, which is a little asynchronous with something else on this team, but it doesn't matter too much, as the Haze is mainly just there to get rid of Intimidates on our other Pokemon, but it is also helpful for handling the Dondozo matchup. Lastly, I picked a Terra type of Grass in order to avoid getting Spored on Politoed, even though Politoed really doesn't have much to counter the Amoonguss unless we get brought down to Sash. And we also have HP investment on Politoed, just so maybe if we're getting 2 targets sent into us, that Politoed can live them. However, having a full HP and using Focus Sash Endeavor, it's not great, but it's the set that I came up with. Moving into Bascu Legion here, replacing Barraskewda. Bascu Legion is noticeably slower than Barraskewda, however, a lot of things in this format are not that fast, so we don't have to put too much speed investment into Bascu Legion, as it has the Swift Swim ability, which whenever the rain is up, will make us faster than a lot of things in this format, and pretty much everything that doesn't already have a speed boost on it. We're going with the Choice Band in order to make our Wave Crash do as much damage as we possibly can, except we could be adaptability, but we really want the Swift Swim to give us our speed and not the Choice Scarf adaptability, because that Swift Swim is also a double versus Choice Scarf, which is only a 1.5, so that does change things. We also have the Last Respects for whenever Bascu Legion is in All My Friends Are Dead mode. It will become a 200 base power move if all 3 other Pokemon are fainted at that point. We also have the Terra Blast, which we can use in combination with our Terra Fairy in order to help us get some dragons, which this team doesn't have a lot of tools to deal with other than the Serena Triple Axle. And lastly, we have Aqua Jet, just because we might need to start with Bascu Legion and then get a little chip on something that has a Focus Sash on it. And lastly, we have Riolu, the main reason that you use Riolu is because it has the Prankster ability, which Lucario does not. And Riolu allows us to enable a lot of our physical attackers to stay on the field for longer because we have the Coaching, which will increase an ally's attack and defense by 1, and we also have the Screech for lowering the defense of opponents, which means that our physical attackers will deal double damage into them pretty much immediately. And we also have the Rain Dance. In case we don't want to bring Politoed, we can just bring Riolu and then use the Rain Dance in order to get up Bascu Legion's Rain, or to weaken the Fire-type moves used against Riolu and Serena. And lastly, we just have the Bullet Punch in case I need to get a Focus Sash. Nothing is immune to Bullet Punch other than Shedinja, but Shedinja's not in this game, so it works out. And lastly, we have the Cover Cloak to avoid Fake Outs, and we have a Terra type of Dark to avoid the Prankster Taunts. And our EV spread is a little funky here, but the main thing that you want to know is that we are 106 speed on Riolu, so Riolu is exactly 1 speed point faster than Rillaboom, so that way if we want to go with Grassy Glide on Rillaboom, we can just side Coaching, and then Grassy Glide will go after the Coaching, so it will get the damage boost, or we can Screech, and same idea. So yeah, that's the basic concept of this team. Now let's get into a bit of battling. Okay, so this was an open team sheet battle I had against a team that could be, and actually is, just like a Series 1 team from the original Reg A. They have some pretty threatening things into us, like Meowscarada that had the Choice Band. However, Meowscarada did not have Sucker Punch, so it didn't have any priority, which means that Bascu Legion had a bit more fair play, but they have the Sand with Tyranitar, which can destroy a lot of our Bascu Legion plays. As well as they have Volcarona, which can deal with both of our grass types, and they also have Grimmsnarl, and it was a Lagging Tail Trick Grimmsnarl, which means that they can make anything on the field negative priority with just 1 turn of tricking the Lagging Tail onto one of my Pokemon and getting rid of our item. I decided to lead with Incineroar Riolu because I figured that even if they do lead Tyranitar or Garchomp, they should really be expecting the Rain lead, which means that we can just get Incineroar going with Riolu here with the side Coaching, and Incineroar is also Terra Ghost, and nothing on this team really deals with the Terra Ghost except for the Meowscarada, who had the Choice Band knockoff. We'll let this turn play out. Meowscarada obviously doesn't have very much play here, so it decides to leave into Tyranitar as we side Coaching into Incineroar, and Volcarona goes for the Quiver Dance, and we get the knockoff into Volcarona, and that just KOs Volcarona because this Volcarona is not very physically invested. And the Sand Chip would have taken down Volcarona even if we didn't KO by about like 6% or so, so we have a bit of wiggle room. But I'm feeling pretty good right now that we have the Coaching boost on Incineroar, since the Tyranitar, it can Rock Slide, but it won't do. It'll do about half to us, and Incineroar can just Drain Punch into the Tyranitar slot, countering its weakness. Meowscarada returns to the field. I decided to get the Coaching onto Incineroar again. They Flower Trick into Riolu to try and get rid of it, and of course it does. As I Flare Blitz into Meowscarada just to get rid of it, and Tyranitar does go for the Rock Slide. However, Incineroar takes it like a champ, because that's what Incineroar does. As Garchomp now hits the field, and Politoed gets rid of the Sand, I decide to protect Politoed, so even if Garchomp does KO Incineroar here, which they do end up KOing Incineroar, and this Garchomp was Earthquake, Rock Slide, Dragon Claw, and Protect, so there wasn't any real downside in me losing Incineroar here, because what I have in the back is able to beat both of these Mons because it is a Bascu Legion.
They decide to Terra their Tyranitar, but I Wave Crash into the Tyranitar, predicting that they were going to protect with Garchomp. And even if they didn't protect with Garchomp and they decided to try and KO Basculete Legion, even though Basculete Legion is faster than Garchomp, if they decided to like Dragon Claw into Basculete Legion and that KOs for whatever reason, then we still have Politoed who can do the 2v1 with 2 Weather Balls worth of damage into the Garchomp, since Politoed has the Focus Sash. But Basculete Legion gets to Wave Crash, and that is the end of Game 1. In Game 2, I decided to do the same leads, however, I am expecting to see Rotom here, because Rotom can get some good damage, but they decided to bring Grimmsnarl this game as well, which, Riolu's faster than the Grimmsnarl, thankfully, because we have so much speed investment on Riolu. They do Hydro Pump into Incineroar, which takes about half damage, but we knock off into Rotom, and with that halved defense on the Rotom, we get to get rid of it, which is really nice, because we have both of our water types in the back. But now they bring in Volcarona and figure that they want to start getting Volcarona set up, and since Riolu is taunted, we can't really do much with Riolu, so I just decided to get some Bullet Punch damage into Grimmsnarl as we knock off into Volcarona, but that doesn't do enough, and Volcarona gets the Quiver Dance off, but Grimmsnarl is messing with Riolu here by switching the Lagging Tail onto it, but I really don't need Riolu anymore because I'm pretty confident that what I have in the back can handle the rest of the team. They Heat Wave, but they crit Incineroar, which I feel like that crit might have mattered since it was a resisted hit, but who knows, who knows. Incineroar goes down here, which is a little unfortunate, but now we have Basculete Legion and Politoed left in the back, and I think that the Volcarona is pretty likely to Giga Drain here, since it had Giga Drain. It was also a Terra Grass Volcarona, and since they either have Garchomp or Tyranitar or Meowscarada left in the back, I decide to use Basculete Legion to Terrestrialize into Fairy and then protect Politoed to get Basculete Legion to take the Giga Drain pretty well, but we also fire back with Terra Blast, which, yeah, it is resisted, and it almost KOs Volcarona. However, it just does not manage to quite get there, and Volcarona is also faster than us, which is kind of annoying. They Giga Drain into Politoed in order to get a little bit more health, but it's not enough, so they get knocked out by the Terra Blast as the Grimmsnarl. I tried to haze away the boost just in case the Volcarona decided to protect there for whatever reason. They Spirit Break into Basculete Legion, but that doesn't do too much damage, and lastly they are Meowscarada, who is able to Terrestrialize into Grass. However, the Terra Fairy Terra Blast picks up KO, maybe because of the crit. However, Meowscarada is also pretty frail, and we are Choice Banded into the Terra Blast, so hard to say if that crit mattered there. I could run the calcs, but I don't care. Go for Spirit Break into Politoed, hoping that Meowscarada was going to live the turn, but they don't, and the opponent doesn't actually quit. They just quit and disconnect, and then leave me sitting there for an extra minute for whatever reason. But the opponent understands, nonetheless, that the battle is just kind of over at this point.
Hey, we have a bit of a snow team here, but they also have Mouseape. Because their snow lead really keeps us from using Rillaboom to just bully down the mouse with double Grassy Glides. And we can't lead Incineroar because Incineroar will activate the Monkey's Defiant. So what if instead we just decide to lead Basculete Legion and then have Rillaboom here, and then in the back we have Politoed and Serena, and let's see how things go. They lead Ninetales and Excalibur. Okay, so they decided to go with the snow lead. But since they've led the snow, we can just switch in Politoed here at any time, unless my computer lags through it. What is their Ninetales Terra? Is it Terra Water? No, it's Terra Fire, and they're not Protect, are they? They are not Protect. They could just swap in Rillaboom here, though. I think it's worth going for the Terra Fairy here. Actually, I don't need to Terra Fairy at all. But it's worth going for Wave Crash into Ninetales, and then swapping into Politoed to maybe draw an Ice-type move into Rillaboom. Excalibur protects, which is good, and Ninetales stays on the field. We Wave Crash into Ninetales, which takes out one hit, and God, we are experiencing a lot of lag right now. Okay, in comes Talonflame, who can Tailwind here. However, they should, like, Glaive Rush into something. So we can, like, Terrestrialize into Fairy, and then Wave Crash into Talonflame. Or maybe even Wave Crash into Excalibur and still do a good amount of damage. I think we Wave Crash into Excalibur and Weather Ball into Talonflame here. Tailwind, but they call us in the Icicle Crash. We Wave Crash into Excalibur to get a good bit of damage into it, and Weather Ball comes out into Talonflame, and that takes out Talonflame. But now who do they have in the back? Because this just became kind of annoying. 3v2. Okay, it's Mouse holding back. Who can follow me? Yeah, them predicting here that we would swamp. Pretty annoying. That we would terrestrialize. It's not quite over yet. I just need to... We're going to Grassy Glide into... God, I'm lagging so bad. Grassy Glide and a Weather Ball into Mousehold. Because Mousehold's going to redirect. But if we can take out Mousehold here, we have a pretty decent shot. Yeah, because we take out Mousehold. Now we can bring in Rillaboom. And we can Grassy Glide and Weather Ball. They decide to protect for whatever reason. I guess to get more grassy terrain healing. Grassy Glide into Excalibur. And we can Weather Ball into Excalibur. And it looks like the Weather Ball and Grassy Glide combination is gonna pick a KO. Alright, nice. Sorry that game was so laggy, but I don't think the next game is about to be less laggy, so... Oh boy. So what is their counter now? Because what I led was Basket Legion Rillaboom. I think I'm okay with doing that again. However, this time... They really shouldn't bring Ninetales. I'm gonna lead Basket Legion and Rillaboom again, and then we'll have... Oh, actually, okay, thank goodness the opponent just decided to quit. Which, we take those, but I'm gonna wait for a bit while my computer cools down, because even picking Pokemon there was way too laggy.
Alright, here we have a bit of a tricky... I don't even know what to call this team. It has Zoroark on it, it has Sylveon on it, it has Hydreigon, Goldengo, Amoonguss, and Electabuzz on it. That's like all of the Pokemon. I'm not quite sure what to do here. I mean, I could lead Rillaboom, because the only thing that threatens it is Hydreigon. Hydreigon actually threatens a lot here. Let's start Incineroar, actually, and Riolu, and then let's carry Politoed and Basket Legion in the back. They do start Hydreigon and Sylveon here. I think I'm least afraid of the Hydreigon right now. Faking out the Sylveon and it being Zoroark is going to really stink, though. Let's fake out the Hydreigon and Bullet... Let's just Drain Punch the Hydreigon. I'm okay with taking a risk here. Hydreigon nasty plots. And it's revealed to be Zoroark. Okay. And we lose Riolu because it's actually Sylveon. Alright, well, we can at least knock off the Hydreigon and Weather Ball into it. Not before it gets off a Hyper Voice. So yeah, Hyper Voices. So now it's all up to Basket Legion in the back to handle all of our problems. They haven't consumed a Terra yet. I think it would not be... I can just Dark Pulse. I have to use the Terra on Basket Legion here. And then... Hydreigon is much less of a problem once I do that. So I'm going to Wave Crash Sylveon and Endeavor Hydreigon. And maybe if they Dark Pulse Basket Legion... Yeah, okay. And Politoed gets to Endeavor Hydreigon. And then what is their Pokemon in the back? It's Goldango. Okay, I think we have to Wave Crash the Goldango and Weather Ball into Hydreigon. We crush Goldango, that takes that out. And Hydreigon Dark Pulses Politoed. Juices up Life Orb. But Hydreigon... Oh, it's messing up all the movesets. Hydreigon normally has... Protect and Smooth. Oh, they decide... I was gonna say, they have Protect, but we have 2 turns of Rain left, so Basket Legion can at least clean up in the back here. Oh, and they actually just full forfeited that battle based on the first battle. Alright, well, that was the Grass, Fire, Water core. We might have a team in the future that does consist of multiple Grass Pokemon, 1 Fire Pokemon, and 2 Water Pokemon. However, I probably won't call it the Grass, Fire, Water core, because it doesn't exist, first of all. But I just like this idea, because Riolu with coaching is one of my favorite things to just put on teams randomly sometimes. Because, like, it's kind of nice whenever you can land the Screech and then stop, like, body press users who are trying to stop you. That was one of the handy things I used it for back in Spikemuth Cup. But I just like coaching. Coaching might be the move that we use, other than, like, Protect or something, but coaching might be the move that we use the most across all of the teams. I'd be interested to see the data on what move I use the most, because it might be coaching. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, maybe consider leaving a like on the video and even consider subscribing, because both of those things help me out an absolute ton. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much.